I mean, I guess I understood, you know, the technicalities of sex, but maybe not so much intimacy, that I couldn't separate my sex life from the rest of my life.
What could somebody have told me that was different from what, you know, my school was telling me and my parents? And I feel like it's hard for somebody really to tell you what sex really means until you experience it. Mm-hmm. And I felt school couldn't really give me more than just like protection and right. Anatomy of it. And once it really happens, I think the biggest thing that, looking back, I could have that could have helped is just for you to know that sex doesn't really make your relationship any easier, and sex doesn't really sex does, you know, it is like a great thing to experience with somebody special, but I also think that it's more important at times to well, what's more important is the relationship, like the bonds that you have, like that friendship, and if you have a strong bond with that person, then sex doesn't always matter so much. You know what I mean? Like it's just like an additional, like it's just like something that's like the icing on the cake in a way. It can make things like that much better. But if you don't have like a solid like foundation with the person and you're having sex, it just confuses matters. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
I mean, it can strengthen a good relationship if you have that already existing, but it's not going to make a mediocre relationship better.
Yay, that's totally
Even though I'm straight, I think I wish someone explained sex between gay couples more to me, just so I had a better understanding when I was younger, and I didn't get that pop culture view.
Like, I really like my exposure to media, but I feel like a lot of my peers had negative media, or their parents didn't really talk about it enough, or weren't open about it, or waited too long or whatever, and by that time they already had ideas about sex, which were like totally crazy, and I don't feel like I had that.
Yeah. Well, on like a less technical level, I wish more parents and more like authority figures in school explained to boys and girls like sex and respect. I think I wish more girls
and responsibility.
I wish more girls respected themselves, and I wish more guys didn't feel like it was a need to have sex. And even though that's a stereotype, it's a stereotype because it's true.
Yeah.
And I think more guys are determined to have sex not because it's in their genes, but because it's what the media has exposed to them. And I wish more, and like the same thing with like homosexuality, I wish more kids had a better idea of what that really is, and that it's really no different than heterosexual sex. And like, I wish that it was just more, instead of the whole like condom, birth control, I wish it was really brought into like the emotional, the mental, and like more than just a guy and a girl.
Like, I think that a lot of people think it's just physical, and I feel like it's not even, I feel like, I really believe it's more than that. It's like an emotional thing, and I really don't think that teenagers, especially, like, people just shouldn't have sex until they're ready to, like, support a child. People are like, oh, sex is fine, like, I'm not gonna get pregnant, and then they're like, oh, I'm pregnant, and I'm like 14, and oh no.
I think that people, like young, under 18 people, should seriously think about it.
And parents should
like
talk to
think
their kids
about it. And if you're going to have sex, you should do like the double precaution, like the condom and the birth control. One isn't good enough, and it's not good in like the back of your car. Like, just think about it. I mean, don't ruin it. Don't like make it mathematical or logical, but just be like, yeah, I think I'm ready to commit myself mentally, emotionally, and physically to
financially.
You. Thank you for supporting me, Addie.
I do support you, Katie.
Yeah, that's what I would have to say about sex.
Yeah, same.
I wish somebody had told me how to talk to your kids about sex. Now I have these kids that are coming into their teenage years, and that's tough. They're running into a lot of problems and stuff, and it's just hard to get them, especially my son, to talk about it. You're going to need to be a big part of your kids' education and development in becoming sexual beings. I mean, if you're going to be an adult, you're going to have kids of your own. It's one thing to know it yourself, it's another thing to pass it on to your kids. And you have to not only tell them this stuff, you have to mess with their lifestyle so they end up being responsible, healthy human beings and in a sexual way. And that's the one part that people don't talk about. Everybody talks about where you should invest your money, and nobody talks openly, as they say here, about how to be a sexual being.
I wish that when I was younger that I was taught that it was okay for me to be gay. Like, my mother always said, I knew that it was okay, but I was also kind of iffy.
I wish someone had told me that having sex wasn't a bad thing, and it wasn't something that was maybe as big a deal as it was made out to be. And that, I mean, it's important that you understand what you're doing when you have sex, but it's not something that needs to be so avoided and feared that it's an okay thing.
It really needs to be talked about, and there's nothing wrong with talking about it. It's natural. I don't understand being afraid of talking about it.
That it doesn't need to be taboo, I guess. Yeah.
You don't need to be afraid of it, and that there's more to sex than just a woman and a man. There are many different types of sex.
My parents had the the obligatory sex talk with me at 13, and I already knew then I was gay, and actually I'm transgendered, but I didn't really know that at 13, so the whole talk was kind of lost on me. Basic, yeah, man and woman, having babies and, that sort of thing. And so early on I was just I'll never have sex, and, because I was, I had internalized homophobia. So, I just knew that sex was basically not for me at that point. I was just very, asexual, and, I mean, it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I had sex, and and that now is unheard of, so